The year is 2022. On a misty morning at the outskirts of the quiet, forgotten town of Pien in Poland, the Earth seemed ready to release a secret it had guarded for centuries. Archaeologists had arrived to conduct what was supposed to be a routine excavation. The maps in their hands indicated that there had once been a cemetery here, but no one could have guessed that within this burial ground lay one of the strangest and most unsettling discoveries in European history. When the first shovel broke into the soil, the cold, damp earth cracked under the weight of the years. As the pit widened inch by inch, at first only ordinary-looking bones emerged. But then, something startling, an old, rusted but still intact sickle positioned across the throat of a skeleton, and at the ankles, a heavy iron shackle driven into place. This was no ordinary grave. This was fear buried in the ground. The archaeologists quickly realized that this woman, whom they would later call Zosia, had not been given a normal burial. Even in death, she had been considered dangerous. In that moment, the entire team understood they had uncovered a vampire burial. In medieval Europe, burial rituals driven by the fear of beings believed to rise from their graves known as upia or strega were not just the stuff of legend. They existed exactly like this, in real graves. But could fear truly be so powerful that it would compel people to bury someone with a sickle across their neck and chains around their body? In medieval Poland, death was not merely a physical end. The restless soul of the deceased could spell disaster for the living. Plague outbreaks, famines, and endless wars opened the door in people's minds to supernatural threats. If deaths occurred one after another in a village, the cause was often believed to be a vampire returning. For this reason, in suspicious deaths, the way a body was placed in the grave was of vital importance. A sickle positioned across the neck served as both a symbolic and physical barrier. If the dead attempted to rise, they would decapitate themselves. The heavy shackle fixed to the ankles, meanwhile, would make it impossible for them to leave the grave. Zosia's grave was one of the most striking examples of this fear. Analysis of the bones showed that she had died at a relatively young age, but the real mystery was why she had been buried in such a manner. The village records did not reach that far back in time. The only evidence we had was her grave. Still, archaeologists, considering the social structure and beliefs of the period, were able to propose some clues. Zosia may have been one of the first victims of an epidemic, or perhaps someone in the village had declared her cursed. In the Middle Ages, being different could often be deadly. Unusual physical features, strange behavior, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Any of these could be enough to brand a person as a vampire. The findings revealed that Pien was not home to its first vampire grave. Similar burial rituals had been discovered in other villages across Poland. However, Zosia's grave was exceptionally well preserved, with its symbols remarkably clear. This made it unique from an archaeological perspective. Moreover, the area where the grave was found contained other unusual burials. Some had their heads separated from their bodies. Others had stones placed in their mouths. All bore the same mark of fear, the threat that could come even after death. Such burials were not unique to Poland. Similar burial methods had been documented in Bulgaria, Italy, and even England. However, in the Polish examples, the use of a sickle was particularly prominent. The sickle was both an agricultural tool and a symbol of death. It was part of a farmer's daily life, yet also a device that reaped lives. Placing it in the grave drew a sharp boundary between the dead and the living. Zosia's story made headlines worldwide after the excavation was reported in the media. Newspapers ran titles like "Real Vampire Grave Found." However, scientists remained cautious. For them, this was not evidence of supernatural beings, but rather a tangible reflection of human psychology and fear. In the Middle Ages, science as we know it today did not exist. Instead of seeking the cause of epidemics in microbes, supernatural explanations were more readily accepted. Thus, the fear of vampires was, in reality, a reaction to the unknown. Still, this explanation did not diminish the allure of the story. Zosia's grave revealed both humanity's helplessness in the face of death and the power of the rituals born from that helplessness. The sickle placed across her neck symbolized not only the villagers' fear, but also their attempt at protection. Perhaps from their perspective, it was even an act of mercy, a final effort to ensure that Zosia's soul could find peace. Although the excavation team meticulously documented every detail from the grave, its full story will never be known. And perhaps that is for the better, because the unknown stirs a deeper curiosity than the known. The human mind fills in the gaps with stories. Some believe Zosia was a victim of an epidemic. Others think she truly carried a cursed soul capable of rising from the grave. Today, the cemetery in Pien remains silent. The archaeologists have completed their work. The bones have been moved to a museum, but that soil may still hide many more secrets beneath its surface. Perhaps there are other Zosias or traces of even more terrifying rituals. And we, as modern people, cannot help but stand before those graves and ask, is it really over? Because if history has taught us anything, it is this: our fears outlive us, and sometimes burying them in the ground is not enough.